Hey, what up, guys? Get me out here. So today I've got a little bit of a different video for you guys than our normal video highlights, but it's been about 3 weeks, and so I feel comfortable finally answering one of the most frequently asked questions that I get in my Twitch chat. What cards should I craft from Scholomance Academy? And so what I've got for you guys today is my Scholomance Academy crafting guide. So let me just go ahead and say this. This is potentially, obviously subjective, right? This is just my opinion. And you probably are going to have differing opinions than me. And if you do, feel free to craft whatever you would like. But what I've got for you guys today is I've got 3 different categories. I have a must craft category. These are the absolute most bonkers cards from Scholomance Academy. And that if you're only going to craft like 10 cards, these are the ones that you're going to craft because they're going to see play in the top tier decks in the format for the next foreseeable future. And then I have a should craft. And so this is a section with cards that are, not potentially in those top tier decks, but are going to see play in these tier 3, tier 4 decks, like the more fun archetypes, I would say. I guess fun subjective. More fun for me, archetypes. But also cards that are potentially, archetype defining, which means that in the future, they might get more support and might lead to them becoming competitive top tier decks in the future in Wild. And then last but not least, we have a fun craft. And these are cards that if you have, all the cards in the first 2 categories, these are the cards that I would suggest crafting because they're just really, really cool cards or enable really, really cool decks. All right. And so again, this is completely subjective, but I want to use this as sort of a guide, right, for your spending of dust. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you guys do, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and share with your friends, right? It's free, and it supports me a lot, and I hope you guys find this useful. All right, so starting off our must-craft list of cards, we're going to start with the card that was nerfed a long, long time ago. I'm talking about Lightning Bloom, sorry. But yeah, Lightning Bloom, 0 mana, gain 2 mana crystals. Just like old Innervate, enables some pretty strong, insane power level swings for both aggro and combo decks alike, right? So both aggro druid variants and aggressive shaman variants, and potentially even shaman variants, all want Lightning Bloom. It just allows for some explosive openers that are really, really hard to answer, which is what aggro decks really, really want. And as an aggro deck, you're running really, really cheap cards so that you can kind of get around this 2 overload downside of Lightning Bloom. And then obviously without, spending too much time, the combo potential of Lightning Bloom, allowing you access to so much mana for both like Maldigo Shaman, combo druids with Aviana, Kun shenanigans, right? Old Innervate was absolutely bonkers. And so I don't think that I need to talk too much about the power level of this card. All right, next up, we're going to talk about a combination of cards, Raise Dead and Flesh Giant. So Raise Dead sees play in Rena Priest, right? Rena Locks, potentially Q blocks, but maybe most importantly, Darkler Warlocks. It's just an insanely bonkers card that may or may not get nerfed in the future. And if it does, you're going to get your dust back for this card anyways. But I think Raise Dead, hands down, one of the best cards. And I during the reveal, I thought this card was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this good. And then obviously the synergy with Flesh Giant. Flesh Giant sees a lot of play in Evenlock, and then of course the Dark Lair, Pain Zoo, whatever you want to call it. Both of these cards very, very good. Darkly Warlock up there for one of the best decks in the format right now, so you will not regret crafting these cards. And then next up we've got Mindrender Elucia. This card's already been nerfed once, and is still up there for one of the best cards in Rena Priest, giving you some of the best combo disruption available in Hearthstone. I don't really, if you've watched some of the other videos on this channel, you know how much I hate this card, and I hate it because it's kind of strong, right? Mindrender Elucia, a very, very, very good safe craft. All right, so next up we've got Secret Passage. Any rogue deck wants this card. Yeah, it's a 1 mana draw 5. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Secret Passage is absolutely bonkers, okay? If you want to play rogue, you need to craft Secret Passage. Whether you're playing Odd Rogue or Kingsbane Rogue or whatever, if you don't have Secret Passage in your deck, you are trolling. Yeah, I'll put it at that. All right, next up we've got Volpira Toxin Blade. So this card doesn't really see playing Kingsbane Rogue. You don't really need it. But this card's just absolutely bonkers in Odd Rogue, okay? The ability to equip a 3-mana 4/2 or a 3-mana 5/2 as early as turn 3 in Odd Rogue is just, it's insane. And the synergy is so clean. I don't really know how to describe this card. It's a common, and it's going to be some of the best 40 dust you spend when it comes to Odd Rogue. Very, very, very good card. And then last but not least, we'll talk about one more Rogue card. All right, we're going to talk about Cutting Class. So Cutting Class sees play in both Odd Rogue and Kingsbane Rogue. It's very often like a 1 mana, 2 mana, and most of the time, honestly, 0 mana, draw 2, right? And the cards that you draw for that, let's say you Secret Passage into a Cutting Class, and then you play the Cutting Class for free, those 2 cards stay in your hand, right? And we're just talking about Volpira Toxin Blade. Volpira Toxin Blade is such a good enabler for this card, right? So turn 4, you're doing a 1 mana draw 2 in an aggressive deck. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Cutting Class, very, very good card. Another fairly cheap card as well. All right, then we're going to talk about two commons that super went under the radar, or maybe didn't go under the radar, depending on where you're listening. But Tour Guide, I think, is something that a lot of people, myself included, were very hype on. I think this card, we saw the potential immediately of a 1 mana card that enables your hero power. And I think we were all looking at stuff like Odd Paladin or Odd Rogue, but I mean, obviously, if you guys have been playing Legend Ladder, you guys know the power level of that card is something like Darkglare Warlock. A 0 mana tap is kind of nutty. Tour Guide, very, very good card in aggressive decks. But something that kind of went a little bit under the radar, Broomstick. Broomstick, oh my god. This card is absolutely bonkers. I don't know how we didn't see it coming. The comeback potential of this card is just absolutely bonkers. I think, Blizzard, can we stop printing Rush? Rush is a broken mechanic. Stop it, okay? Right now, it's currently really only seeing play in Darkglare Warlock, but I think that's because people in Wild in general are super underrating this card, and I think it should be seeing play in many more decks, right? And I think the only reason we're not seeing it more is because of the popular presence of Arena Priest, right? That kind of is preventing these board-based aggressive decks from seeing a lot of light. But if those decks ever come back into the metagame, Broomstick should definitely be one of the top tier cards in that deck, okay? Some more commons, cheap cards, craft them, all right? They're insanely strong, and you're not going to regret it in the future. And then the last 2 cards for my must-craft section are going to be 2 legendaries. And these I think these are the most controversial cards on this must-craft list. And you guys can move them down to the should-craft, and I'd probably be okay with it, and I might agree with you, right? But first up, we have Lore Keeper Polkelt. This card currently is only really seeing play in Priest List, but the presence of this card in Priest List has done 2 things. First of all, it's completely pushed the Dragon versions of Arena Priest out of the metagame, because when you play Polkelt, the whole reason you play Polkelt is to increase the consistency of you drawing your combo pieces, right? Which has always been like Arena Priest Achilles heel. If you have Roz or you have Anduin at the bottom of your deck, you're not winning that game, more than likely. And so the ability to tutor and stack your deck is insanely powerful, right? And is up the consistency of Arena Priest. And honestly, I'm waiting for this to be played in a ton of other decks, right? So I know people are experimenting with it in Darkglare Warlock so that your Giants and your Loathebs are at the top of your deck. I've been playing it a ton in Cute Lock, the one with Professor Gandling, so that you're guaranteed to draw your Hobgoblins and your Gandling. And I'm sure it's going to see play in a ton more meta decks as well. The ability to stack your draw is an insanely powerful and potentially underrated effect for a lot of people in Wild. And so Lore Keeper Polkelt is a very, very strong card right now. And I think it has the potential to be a very, very strong card in the future and break some other archetypes. And so I have zero hesitation putting it on my must-craft list, and I know some of you guys might argue with me about that, but I think Polkelt, hands down, second best legendary in the set. And then my last inclusion on my must-craft list, I've got 11 cards here. And this is a card that I might get a little flack with, but Lord Barov has been a surprisingly very, very strong card. So this is the Warrior and Paladin dual class legendary. Lord Barov in something like Dead Man's Hand Warrior, or Enrage, or Patron Warrior, or even Odd Warrior, or as a tech card in something like Odd Paladin. Like, this card has been insane. And the main reason it's insane is in Warrior specifically, is the synergy with Risky Skipper. Okay, you have the ability to tutor your Risky Skippers anyways with Ankar, and the ability to go Risky Skipper, Barov, and immediately clear your opponent's board for 4 mana is insanely powerful, right? And it's kind of the main reason that stuff like Odd Warrior and Dead Man's Hand Warrior are being touted as like the counters to Darkglare Warlock. I'm a little bit iffy on that one, but I think any Warrior deck that wants to run Risky Skipper, which should be almost every Warrior deck that's not Pirate Warrior, should also be running Lord Barov, because the synergy in Warrior with all the Whirlwind effects anyways, it's too powerful of a card not to run, right? And so this might be a little bit controversial out there just because the power level of Dead Man's Hand or Odd Warrior might be up in the air, but I think as long as Risky Skipper exists in its current form, I think that package of Risky Skipper and Ankar and now Lord Barov and Blood Boil Brute and cards like that are going to see play in a lot of Warrior decks for the foreseeable future. So as my last card on this Mustcraft list, I'm going to put Lord Barov. And if you agree with me, awesome. That means I'm smart and you're agreeing with somebody smart. And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. All right, so moving on to our should craft list. So now this is kind of the next tier down from our must crafts, right? So craft everything in the must craft list first, because they're the better cards. But if you have some other dust lying around and still are looking to add to your Scholomance Academy collection, I've got a list of cards for you. And so these are primarily kind of packages of cards that belong in certain archetypes. So I'm going to talk about them together. So the first group is going to be Odd Demon Hunter, running True Aim Crescent and Ace Hunter Kreen. You can also argue that this is like aggressive Hunter decks in general, potentially. It might be better in Hunter, honestly, than Odd Demon Hunter. But I run them in Odd Demon Hunter, so I'm going to just kind of talk about those. But True Aim Crescent is a 1 mana 1/4 weapon that's just very good at clearing the board in other aggressive mirrors. I think it's very, very good in Hunter as well. The ability to pop your own eggs, or like board control in Hunter is everything. And it's even more important now in Odd Demon Hunter now that you don't have Warglaives, because you no longer have this comeback mechanism. But I think True Aim Crescent's a very, very good card. And speaking of good cards, Ace Hunter Kreen, I think, is a super underrated card just because Odd Demon Hunter just can't beat Priest, right? It can't. And so you don't see a ton of Odd Demon Hunter. But I think Odd Demon Hunter actually is like a sneaky good matchup into something like Darkglare Warlock with the amount of upfront burst. And some part of that has to do with Ace Hunter Kreen allowing you to snowball your board, which is a huge thing in a deck that doesn't have any comeback mechanisms. So I would really, especially if you're grinding that 1000 win Demon Hunter portrait, I think True Aim Crescent and Ace Hunter Kreen, or if you're a Hunter player, you definitely want to look at these two inclusions to your arsenal. All right, now moving on to some Druid archetypes. Let's talk about Aggro Druid. Aggro Druid's got a couple really, really good cards in Intrepid Initiate and Gibberling. So this is a neutral card and a 1 mana 1/1. I will put myself out there. I thought Gibberling was going to be absolute garbage, and that shows you kind of how bad I am at card evaluation sometimes. I kind of completely glossed over this potential. I think both of these cards are insanely powerful in Aggro Druid. Aggro Druid struggles from its own inconsistency sometimes, but I think Aggro Druid itself... I'll go ahead and add Voracious Reader here. I don't think I need to talk too much about Voracious Reader. Voracious Reader is kind of a bonkers card, right? But so I think all three of these cards are very, very strong boost to Aggro Druid. Aggro Druid does lose to itself into Arena Priest, which is why you aren't seeing a ton of it on ladder. But Aggro Druid is also one of those like super good budget decks that will always have potential place in the metagame because its ability to pull off turn 2, turn 3 high roll wins is probably faster than any other deck out there in the metagame, to be honest with you. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some Mali Druid when it comes to Druid Nature Studies. So the ability to turn 3 Overgrowth into Psych Melon, into combo. I think it surprised a lot of people, including me, with the power level of that card in Druid, the ability to find single target removal sometimes, or find an extra plague, or find a starfall. But maybe most importantly, the turn 3 overgrowth potential is absolutely bonkers. Again, nothing super flashy, but it's a common, right? So if you're looking to upgrade your Malagos Druids or your combo Druids in general, Nature Studies is definitely a card you want to look at. And then I can't believe I'm talking about Quest Mage and how to improve Quest Mage, but there's a trio of cards that were a nice little boost to Quest Mage. So Quest Mage has like kind of completely disappeared off the face of the earth because of Darkglare Warlock's presence and then Mindrender Lucia, right? But Quest Mage is still a very degenerate deck sometimes, and is very good against other slow decks, right? So Firebrand, very, very good at recovering board or clearing board against other aggro decks. Wand Thief, same thing, right? 1-2 discover a card that counts towards your quest that like fits your appropriate situation. And then Wand Maker, 2 mana 2/2, giving you a random 1 mana card, right? Spellkin, baby Spellkin, but better Spellkin, right? All three very, very good inclusions in Quest Mage. For the whole sake of in Quest Mage, you want to run as many minions as possible, right? To increase the consistency of your Book of Specters, which is why stuff like Wand Thief and Wand Maker are so good in that archetype. But I think all three of these cards are very, very good in Quest Mage. And if Quest Mage ever comes back into the metagame, these three cards will see play. Definitely, 100% in that deck. All right, so let's talk about Jandis Barov. So this is a card that's primarily seeing play in Odd Rogue, but I think it definitely has a place in Odd Mage, and potentially has a place in Luna's Pocket Galaxy Mage. Video coming on that soon, TM. But I think Jandis, I underrated the card because of the potential for low rolls. But there's a lot of really, really good minions. And when you think about it, it's just kind of 5 mana 10/10 worth of stats most of the time, which is, I play a 5 mana 10/10 across 2 bodies. And I think the ability for one of them to die isn't that drastic of a downside because your opponent's still taking the 4 or 5 damage or sinking that damage into a minion with one of their minions, and it's not that big of a deal, right? And against Priest, they don't really have a lot of pingers, and so the ability to dump a 5 mana 10/10 and then hit your opponent potentially with both of those minions is super powerful. Again, she sees a lot of play in Odd Rogue, but I've been experimenting with her in some Mage List, and I think she does have a place currently in Wild, maybe for the foreseeable future, especially in Odd Rogue. I think Odd Rogue got a huge buff, and I think she's a very, very good card in that deck. So I'm going to talk about 2 Paladin decks. First of all, we're going to talk about Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin really only got 1 new tool, but it's a really, really strong tool. So we're talking about Goody 2 Shields. It's surprisingly easy. I think when Corbett and I were talking about this card a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how easy is it going to be to activate that Spellburst effect, and it's surprisingly easy in Odd Paladin. It's a lot easier than I expected, and because it's easier, I think this card's very, very good. Okay, and I think it's going to see play. It's a 3 mana 4/2 Divine Shield, right? It hits face hard, and the ability to refresh the Divine Shield to make it even harder to remove. Goody 2 Shields feels really, really good in Odd Paladin. And now switching gears to another Paladin archetype, we have Pure Paladin. I think Pure Paladin got a huge set of buffs with a package of cards. First of all, you got First Day of School. I think this card is low-key busted. I think it's very, very, very good. It's a better Firefly, in my opinion. And Firefly was one of the best 1-drops ever printed, if that tells you anything. And then you have High Abyss Allure, which synergizes insanely well with First Day of School, obviously. But it just feels really, really good in Pure Paladin. That's all about buffing your minions anyways and thinning your deck. And like the high roll of casting a Libram of Hope on turn 3. Oh, it's beautiful. And then Devout People. I've been talking about this card for a long time, but I think Devout People is just like, it's just a dumb good card in that deck, right? Devout People. I think this package of 3 cards has pushed Pure Paladin into like competitive viability. I have had like a 70% win rate with it this month, which is saying something because I played a lot of games this month of Pure Paladin, but it's been really, really good. I think it's low-key stupid strong. And it has a sneaky good matchup into Darkglare Warlock because you have Libram of Hope, right? Pure Paladin. If you want to play Pure Paladin, you want these 3 cards in your deck though, okay? All right, we've got a couple more to finish off the should crafts. We've got Brittlebone Destroyer. So Evenlock kind of has completely fallen off the face of the earth. It was really popular for a little bit, and then people discovered Darkglare Warlock, and Evenlock's kind of disappeared. But if you are running Evenlock, you're not only running Raised Dead and Flesh Giant, but you're also running Brittlebone Destroyer. And so while I would definitely craft the other two first, I would craft Raise Dead and Flesh Giant first. I think Brittlebone Destroyer is a super, super strong card in Evenlock. And if / when Darklore Warlock gets nerfed, I think Evenlock will come back in spades. And I think Brittlebone Destroyer is going to be a very, very good card. I personally love Evenlock, and therefore I think that you should craft Brittlebone Destroyer anyways and play Evenlock because it's a cool deck, right? To finish off the should craft section, I've got a couple of cards. Penflinger Questberg, and Penflinger in Darklore Warlock. They're super strong additions to those decks, but they're not like 100% core or key to those decks. But they are pretty powerful enablers, and so I do think that you should craft Penflinger, and it will increase the power level of those decks over the existing cards that you're running in them. And then let's talk about Mana Feeder Panthera. So this is a card that's been super good in Even Hunter and even Shaman, and I'm sure in other Even decks as well. 2 mana, 2/3, so like good stats for the cost, and the ability to draw cards in these archetypes that have generally struggled with card draw has been really, really nice. And then the last card here on my should craft list is Sphere Sapiens. This is a card that is still like super controversial because it's a lot of people are like adamant on it being really bad, and a lot of people are adamant on it being like really, really good. And because like there's no clear consensus, I feel like it has to be here in the should craft. I'm personally on board of like I run it in a lot of my Reno decks, like every Reno deck, because I love increasing the consistency of my Reno decks. And I'm sure it's fine in a lot of other decks, but a lot of people also swear with like it doesn't deserve a slot, it doesn't need a slot. And so the reason it's here is like I think it's a pretty powerful card. I think it's a really unique card, really flavorful card. And so if this is just me, I would put it in the probably like must craft category. But because there's still a little bit of debate, I do feel like I have to put it here. Like you can run Polkelt, combo Reno Priest, and hit rank 1 legend without Sphere Sapiens. But also like I have never played a Sphere Sapiens and been like, damn, I wish I didn't have this in my deck, right? Unless it's been stolen by Sticky Finger, then I feel kind of bad. But I'm super high on Sphere Sapiens, and I think it's a really cool card, and I think you should craft it. And last but not least, we've got fun crafts, or cards that enable archetypes that might not be super top tier, but are definitely a hell of a lot of fun to play and can potentially see play in top tier decks in the future. All right, so let's start off by talking about a package of cards. Guardian Animals, okay, in Druid. It's Druid, not Hunter, okay. But Guardian Animals, Teacher's Pet, Twilight Runner, Survival of the Fittest. If you guys have touched Standard or, follow Standard players on social media, it's been a broken package. It's a very strong package in Standard. I've played a little bit of it in Wild, and it's a pretty powerful combo even in Wild, right? Guardian Animals and drawing 4 cards off of it's kind of nutty, right? While thinning your deck. And I think this has a potential place in the future, right? Whether there's some mid-range Druid or Beast Druid or like combo Druid that's caring about minions for some reason. I've had a lot of success with just like a mid-range Beast Druid or Taunt Druid. I love Guardian Animals. I don't think that it's super powerful in Wild. Right? Like I don't think it's like must nerf if broken, but it's like powerful enough that it makes an impact. It's a good set of cards in Wild. I have decks out there for you guys to net deck if you want to play this kind of Druid decks in Wild, but it's not top tier, okay? And that's why it's in the fun craft. I hope this doesn't get nerfed because of Standard, because these are the kind of cards that will make you actually want to play something in Druid that's not a boring old Aviana combo that runs 27 out of the same 30 cards, right? But moving on. So now let's talk about Hunter. So first of all, Hunter... No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get killed by the Hunter aficionados out there. But I've been playing a lot of Beast Hunter and Spiteful Hunter this expansion as well. I think Shando Wildclaw, 3 mana Keleseth for Beast is insanely powerful, and the ability to copy as well in the late game. Like Keleseth was one of the game-defining cards in Standard. And I think it's just like I think Shando is a very strong card. It's a strong card in Wild. It's not going to be like the reason you play Beast Hunter, but it's pretty damn good. And then speaking of Beast Hunter, you've got Wolpertinger, which is just like power crept alley cat. It's the best one drop in Hunter. And then Overwhelm, some of the best Hunter removal if you're running Beast in your deck. And so this package of Shando, Wolpertinger, and Overwhelm, while they don't push Beast Hunter into top tier competitiveness, they are very, very good in Beast Hunter decks. Okay, so if you're playing Beast Hunters, you definitely do want to play these 3 cards. But if you're playing Beast Hunter, you're probably not playing to hit rank 1 legend, and you're having a little bit of fun while doing it, right? And so Shando, Wolpertinger, and Overwhelm, definitely some of my most fun crafts. Next up, we've got Potion of Illusion. This is a rogue and mage card, but it's currently really only a mage card. It's seeing a lot of play in Turtle Mage. So this is like the Turtolan Pilgrim Mage that's kind of running around standard and a little bit in wild. Shout outs to Concerned Mom, who's really been pioneering this deck. But I've also been really messing with it in just like LPG Mage, right? It's like a second barista for your deck that really cares about its battle cries, right? Which is awesome. I think Potion of Illusions is a really, really strong card in LPG Mage, and it's kind of the defining card of Turtle Mage. And so while both of these decks aren't tier 1 decks, right? But they are really cool, unique decks with the potential to be powerful. And I think both of them really do want Potion of Illusion. So I think Potion of Illusion currently is a pretty fun craft, but might actually be really close to this border of should craft cards, right? All right, so we've got a few cards left. We're almost done. Thanks for sticking with me. We have Lab Partners. Lab Partners, a 1-mana 1/3. Currently really only sees play in Odd Mage, but it's a really damn good card in Odd Mage, okay? Lab Partner, very, 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 very good card in that deck. I mean, you are playing Odd Mage, like I said, but if you do want to play Odd Mage or Spell Damage Mage, which doesn't really exist right now, both of which want Lab Partner, okay? Lab Partner, good. Run it. All right, now let's talk about a couple of big decks, okay? So Big Paladin and Big Warrior. So both Big Paladin and Big Warrior get Commencement. This is just another card to recruit things from your deck, which is what those decks want. And then Big Paladin gets its legendary in Turalion, the Tenured. Very, very good in the dual Paladin archetype. If you are running Big Paladin, you are going to want this card. It's going to make your deck a hell of a lot better. It's very, very good in that deck. And then when it comes to Big Warrior, the 2 cards, Rattlegore and Troublemaker, that were kind of printed for this archetype. Again, very, very good cards in that archetype. If you are playing Recruit Warrior, you are going to want both Rattlegore, the card that yells over and over and over again, and Troublemaker, kind of my namesake card at this point. So you are going to want both of those if you're playing Big Warrior. So yeah, Big Paladin and Big Warrior getting huge, 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 huge buffs this expansion. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about my favorite card right now of the set, Disciplinarian Gandling. This card single-handedly enables Cute Lock, maybe my favorite deck. If you guys haven't seen this already, make sure you guys check out the video. It's a ton of fun to play. It's by far and away my favorite deck of the expansion, but it's single-handedly enabled by Disciplinarian Gandling, and like I'm sure that Gandling is going to see play in like strong priest decks eventually, and maybe like Galakron Zoolock probably wants this card as well, or maybe like a Lackey Lock, who knows. Disciplinarian Gandling, it's not going to see play currently in any top tier deck, probably won't ever, but it's one of the most fun cards and enables one of the most fun decks that I've ever played. And so I'm a big fan of Disciplinarian Gandling, and I had to end this crafting guide with this card. It's man, guys, if you have never played Cute Lock, you're missing out. It's a ton of fun. All right, but yeah, guys, that is my Scholomance Academy crafting guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it had a little bit of everything for anybody that's watching this, whether it's your must crafts, your should crafts, or my most fun crafts from Scholomance Academy. I've been having a blast with this expansion, and I hope you guys are too, especially now that you kind of know what to spend your dust on. If you guys enjoyed content like this, I know it's a little bit outside of my normal stream highlights, but it's something that I've been looking forward to doing, and I am planning on making more content like this. And so if you guys do enjoy content like this, let me know in the comments below, and maybe other things that I should be doing, right? I am planning on stuff like deck guides and like top tier meta deck tier lists and stuff like that. But if you guys have other ideas on what you might want to see, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really do appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, make sure you guys drop that subscribe. We hit 3K in about 6 months, which is awesome. I'm really happy you guys enjoy this content. I appreciate you guys a ton. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys next time. Later.